Homeworthy. I'm Victoria Sass of Refuge Studio, and I'm so excited to share with you this beverage-inspired home in Edina, Minnesota.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos.
Hi, I'm Victoria Sass, owner of Refuge Studio, and I'm coming to you from a home we designed in Minnesota. So interior design is all I've ever done. It's what I love. I'm incredibly passionate about shaping homes for young families. In particular, we have a very soft spot for old homes, young families. This home was pre-existing, and we updated it to accommodate this young family that was moving into it. This client was someone we had worked with in a previous home. We've had a long relationship with them. And when this home became available, it was a love connection. And they brought us in to update a few things so that it'd feel right for their family. One of the things that our studio is very passionate about is concept. So all of our projects start with a strong conceptual vision. This homeowner loves all things, has a wide variety of interests. One of the ways we were able to accommodate this kind of like variety of concept was to channel and be inspired by Beverages, which is a deep love of mine. So we interviewed the homeowner, kind of talking about each room of the house, its purpose, its function, when it might be used, what it might be used for, and sort of imagining what beverage might be associated with that activity or that time of day. Really getting granular as to beverages that bring that homeowner comfort or energy or whatever emotion they wanted to feel in that space. So every room in the home, they're all inspired by beverages, but each one has its own specific beverage. That kind of was the catalyst for how it came together. So this is the Negroni room, which was the homeowner's favorite evening cocktail. This is definitely an adult space. There's no toys, there's no toy storage, there's no television. It's very much about art. It's about furniture pieces that are sculptural. It's also a lot about color. So you might notice we're really limiting ourselves to 2 colors in this room. Well, maybe 3 if you count white, but there's sort of this white spine that I mentioned runs throughout the whole house. And then the only 2 colors we use in this room is sort of this ochre, custardy golden color, and like a rose, shades of rose, plum, kind of variations on this rusty red. The rug was a custom rug for the room. It fits the room like a glove. It actually follows the edges of all the walls. And then this sofa by Egg Collective was a beloved piece. Early on in the project, the homeowner was really excited to feature female furniture designers and female artists. She has a strong passion for supporting women creatives and women makers and just women in general. So we really worked hard to start with female furniture makers and designers wherever possible. So we do love this Egg Collective sectional. It's kind of the showpiece, the center of the room. And then we got to have a lot of fun with all the pillows on it. One of my favorite details that came later in the design was some of these little pillows. The homeowner calls them her samosa pillows, and they really are like little obtuse, angular throw pillows. And it was kind of an experiment for us to see how they functioned. And they are by far superior to the square throw pillow. Difficult to style, not for every room, but in terms of like support and like cozy factor, it's been really fun to see her living with them and using them. Most of the coffee tables are a little undersized for the room in that you can kind of move them around as you're using the space. If you're sitting on one side, you can kind of land here with this coffee table. These ones are great because they're not super heavy, so they can be, kind of picked up and moved around. They are glass and they just have this great translucence. They seem to kind of glow when the light hits them just right. This coffee table is furniture / art. This space of like collectible design is a real passion point for me. The homeowner is an art collector, and working together to think about how we could incorporate furnishing pieces in the home that also function as art was really a fun conversation to have. So this is called the blah blah table, and it's got all these little motifs. It's a very narrative piece. It's a lot of fun to explore while you're, enjoying this room with friends or cocktails or whatever. This is a vintage mid-century chair, local mid-century furniture reseller, Danish Teak Classics. I love them. We worked with them to recover it in this like very plush golden mohair. So there's old pieces, there's new pieces, there's, midlife pieces. I think that mix is really important. This is a new piece, but it's a reproduction of an Eileen Gray table, fantastic female designer who is just starting now to get her due for being the visionary that she was. But that was really, I was happy that we were able to incorporate that piece in this room because I do love a little Eileen Gray in my life. One of the challenges of this room and sort of this asymmetrical angular sectional installation is we did kind of end up with an interesting corner left over, which I think a challenge is, the other side of an opportunity. We were so excited to be able to incorporate these pieces that function as sculpture, that function as a light source, that function as sort of a three-dimensional occupant of this corner. It's got a real whimsical, playful energy. I mean, I think a little bit of like a Dr. Seuss energy when I look at them. But they're really fun to like move around in 3 dimensions and sort of see all the different positive, negative space compositions. And it's a nice complement to all the framed art in the room. I think when it's abstract and whimsical enough, people can kind of see what they want to see in it and make a connection, which I think allows people to like have a dialogue with your space. Again, it is also one of those kind of situations where feeling a little bit challenged by something can be a good thing. I think, if you walk by this and you're like, this is, I'm feeling challenged by this piece today, it's an opportunity to have a conversation with your space. It's an opportunity to like engage and interact with your space. And I think that keeps you in love with your home longer. Some of these pieces pre-existed this home. So the homeowner had this, an art collection before she came to live here. So there were some pieces that we talked about early on about what rooms they'll go in and how they'll support that color story or just the mood of the room. And then the homeowner has continued collecting since we finished the project. So I know she does love to work with local art advisor, Rob Share, the Orange Advisory. So there's a few pieces that he's worked with her to collect. There's some local artists that are up and coming. I have been lucky enough to experience this space firsthand after hours. I was just over here the other night for kind of like a women's girls' night kind of energy. We had a dinner party and there were some amazing, powerful leaders who came together and we had a great conversation. So this really functions so well for gatherings, groups of people. I mean, it's really made for larger groups to get together, to feel like, there's enough space for everyone, but also it feels very intimate. No one's on the outskirts. Everyone can kind of come together in this sort of speaking space. Just want to take a minute. The story of art without men. This sums up our homeowner right here. She's a real firecracker. The homeowner had a pretty tight schedule for executing the design work that we wanted to accomplish in this home. So I think it was about 6 to 9 months from when they took ownership over the home to when they wanted to move in, which that includes design, execution, punch list, the whole 9 yards. So So how we went about doing that, first off, we had an amazing collaborator. The general contractor was incredibly responsive and happy to collaborate with us on the fly. I do actually think, I'm a big believer in slow design. I really love when we can take our time and evolve things, add layers. I also think working on a very condensed timeline, while not for everyone, does kind of end up in a similar place. So that was a really interesting thing to notice, that kind of just being, allowing the space to evolve organically over a condensed timeline kind of had the same effect in the end. So we would be designing things on site one day, and literally it might be being executed either later that day or the following day. So, we had to be very sure, but it also kind of led us to sort of like make one decision and then make the next decision and then make the next decision, which created this kind of layered effect that I think is very inviting when you're in the space. And so I think slow homes have that same effect, where you kind of get one layer established and then another layer established and you're building up. I find that when homes, and that's something that we really work on when we are designing new homes with an old soul, is really thinking about how can we have this collected, eclectic, organic, evolutionary feel to a space. Sometimes newer homes can feel very like they were all designed in one moment, and that can feel a little flat in my opinion. Come with me from the Negroni room into the champagne room. So the champagne room is the dining room, and right off the bat, one architectural detail I'd love to point out is we do have these amazing doors, pocket doors, that close off the dining room, and they're finished in this high gloss automotive paint. It's kind of a theme throughout the house. There's little touches of this super high sheen finish throughout, and you can close these doors and have a really intimate dining experience, which I've been a part of, and it's lovely and magical. Champagne, it's still cocktail hour, but it's a little more effervescent maybe. The light fixtures are actually recycled and pressed automotive plastic material that's been reclaimed and returned into these amazing adjustable light fixtures. So they lift up and down, and you can kind of angle these for an amazing kind of sculptural effect. Big piece of this room. We spent a lot of time designing this table. This is a custom table specifically for this room. It weighs 1,000 pounds, so it can never leave this room. And it's one solid piece of stone with this channeled edge profile. And we had a local maker fabricate a base. And it's a really special thing to be a part of. Fitting a lot of chairs around this table was intentional. It's very important. A certain size of gathering was very important that we were able to accommodate. It's not an expandable table, so it was really important that we were able to fit a good number of people around this. So thinking about things like the overall width of the seat pan, the fact that it doesn't have arms, making sure it feels like there's enough negative space as well. I don't know if you can see, but there's like a lot of voids in the chairs. They're not particularly visually heavy as well as physically heavy, obviously. So that was really important, that we were able to get a large gathering here together. The round table it has its challenges and its, selling points. I think, you have an opportunity for an amazing centerpiece when you have a round table. You have a egalitarian there isn't this head of the table situation. Everyone's kind of on equal footing, which is really lovely. But you do have to be really careful about your circulation space around the table. How far, when you don't have a full table, does it feel oversized? Does it feel undersized? Getting the sizing of it is really important. This piece of art lived here in our minds day one. So when we very first started thinking about this dining room, This was a piece the homeowner owned. It was in their previous home, and it's actually wrappers. It's like wrappers from food products that have been painted and assembled. And it's been in the homeowner's collection for some time. So it was really fun to start with this art piece and then build a room around it. Other pieces have come over time. This is a local artist to Minneapolis, Emma Beatrice, and she is having phenomenal success right now all over the United States. And I love her work. And again, very feminist, very, very female forward content. And it suits the room, the blue of the table. It's been fun to watch the collection evolve. So when you're designing homes in Minnesota, the weather and the seasons affect spaces dramatically. And so something that we consider here that maybe doesn't play in across the United States is how spaces can evolve through the seasons. So I think moodiness is very cozy in winter months. And so having some spaces that can lean into that, having other spaces that feel a little bit brighter. There's also like times of day, you know, there's certain rooms that you're gonna populate more in the daytime. And I think having that have a little brighter, more energetic feeling is important. And then other spaces where you're trying to like kind of quiet yourself or each other and kind of have a quieter moment, having spaces that support that as well. There's definitely a lot of flexibility. I think lighting is a big thing. We really leaned into lamp lighting and very targeted overhead lighting that's art focused. So it sort of feels like the furnishings and the art are glowing rather than there's this like umbrella of light shining down on you. So the home came to us with some amazing millwork and trim details. We adapted some of that or adopted some of that, you know, in spaces where it didn't pre-exist. We kind of continued it. We built on top of it. So I think it's one of those things where it'd be hard to kind of tell where the new and the old start and stop. But because we had all of this amazing trim work to work with, like the room we're in right now, it was really important to me that it didn't feel choppy and like there was a series of rooms. So we have one sort of spine color, everything sort of this white, this warm white. And then we played with ceiling colors throughout the space as a way to kind of delineate different rooms. But from the outside looking in, you're not really getting a sense of there being three or a series of rooms all together. It's not until you're in the room that you're kind of enveloped in a new color, and then you move to the next room and you kind of get a new experience with a new ceiling color, but you're really only experiencing that from inside the room. So from the outside looking in, you have kind of continuity. From inside the room, you get this individual experience in every single room. So that's something where we kind of use the existing trim work and architectural like space planning of the house and added in color, and those two together created a very distinct effect as you move through the space. We probably touched most things in the house. Some things had a very light touch, some things had a heavier touch, like the kitchen was a full remodel. Fireplaces, some we remodeled to match the existing, some were pre-existing. So it really was about a blending. Like we wanted this to be a continuation of a story that already existed, not a full new start, because the homeowner was really in love with what she found here. But there were just, you know, you want to put your own story alongside the pre-existing story. So out of the champagne room into a matcha latte. That's the inspiration for this kitchen space. And this room probably had the most architectural changes to it. It was the start of the conversation. It definitely was reimagined for a young family of 4. We've got the double islands that was added. We removed some walls. A big change to this space was this kind of central cabinetry component. That originally was a wall separating a butler's pantry, an ante room. You know, it was kind of broken up into a series of smaller rooms. We removed that wall and sort of created a division of space with a cabinetry piece. And then behind that is a little beverage center. What more would you want in a house inspired by beverages? But that's where the bar is, and kind of smoothie center, all of that. This room is much more organic than maybe the other rooms. Champagne, a little sleeker. This room, definitely cozier, earthier. And stone was a big driver of the color story in this room. The homeowner just had a really strong passion for beautiful stones. So we've got this minty green quartzite, and we also have this marble, which has kind of earthy brown tones, as well as picking up notes of that minty green as well. So these two stones together really speak to each other without feeling like matchy-matchy. We also incorporate a lot of wood tones in the space. So all of this cabinetry is new. It's kind of golden, not too heavy on the wood grain, but there's some knots in there. So it keeps it a little on the rustic side, a little more down to earth. We added the beams in this space. Those didn't exist in this home prior to our introduction to it. They don't match. I think it's really important to notice that like wood tones don't have to match. And especially in older homes that have evolved over time, they likely wouldn't match. So don't stress too much about your kitchen table matching your cabinetry, matching your ceiling beams. Just find the right wood tone for each piece that highlights that piece the most, and let it be who it is. This stone island has power in it. It has, storage components in it. It is not mobile. It looks like you could pick it up and move it, but it is sort of more of the bar stool space. So this is where the homeowner keeps their custom height bar stools that we worked with them to design. And then we opted, because we had sort of this center table piece, we did not have to have bar stool seating at what would maybe be the more traditional kitchen island with the sink and the dishwasher and the trash. So in this space, we were able to do more of a showpiece storage unit. We've got that super high gloss automotive finish here, as well as on the kind of appliance console back there. And then our good friend Jordan McDonald made us these custom poles, which I know you can't feel them, but they feel so good in your hands. They really have a nice touchability, I guess is the word. This is where the homeowner keeps all of their cutlery, placemats. So as you're setting the table, it's a real easy jaunt from island to kitchen table. Lighting in this room, so we've got the architectural lighting in the ceilings, and then we've got decorative lighting. So there's kind of a suite. We kept it contemporary. It's actually kind of mix match. This is more traditional. You've got the Urban Electric is the manufacturer of it. Amazing customization. I think it's called the Beldy light, and they've got the painted lacquer on the outside, the kind of gold, warm, brassy interior. Then you've got another metal tone on the actual body of the light fixture. So this feels more traditional, and it gives great light to this countertop space. And then complementing it, we kind of stayed with this warm metals theme. We've got countertop lamp. Because we opened up this space, eliminated the wall, we had this amazing long countertop. We tried to kind of break it up a little bit with, I think this lamp kind of demarcates space nicely. This is sort of the end of the kitchen zone, and now you kind of enter into this more beverage forward bar zone behind. And this piece is amazing. It's unlacquered brass, so you're getting all of this character that's building up over time that makes it really dynamic and warm and special. Even though it looks very angular and hard, it has this warmth to it because it's so organic in its finishing. So here you've got our appliances are all kind of concealed in here. We've got our refrigerator, bank of refrigerators, freezers, appliances. And then beyond that, we've got this beverage center, and it looks very elegant, but it's very hardworking. We've got your exposed glassware here, a great opportunity for her to feature pieces that she's collected over time. This is kind of coffee center here. You've got your appliances. These are actually, let's see if I remember, refrigerator drawers. So as you're headed outside to the pool, a quick, grab and go situation there. If you're looking to do something more elaborate, we've got your bar station here. There's the sink. You've got room to store all of your glassware or bar making accoutrement. And then this lacquered display piece for additional bar pieces. So this finish, it was a really fun conversation to be a part of. The homeowner was really passionate about having this high gloss finish in little pockets throughout her home. And we tried, starting with just like high gloss paint, and it still wasn't glossy enough for the homeowner. She was like, I want more gloss. So we actually did work with an automotive refinisher to get this level of high gloss, which I think is really important to talk about. I had a friend recently who asked me about, how do I get that high gloss look? And it is really hard to get organically. Like, you can't DIY this. You can get to a certain level of sheen, but if you really want this flawless mirror finish, you are probably going to have to go to like a manufacturer or someone who professionally finishes things. We've got, dish storage. I love this moment, actually. It's kind of one of those sneaky things that I forget about because there were so many elements to this kitchen. But when you're opening your pantry, getting this like glowy light behind all of your dishware, it's just such a welcoming thing. I think especially if you've collected or curated a collection of dishes, having that sort of like greeting as you open your cabinets just makes me so happy. Pre-existing homeowner and the home as we found it had a lot of this travertine in other parts of the home. And so we wanted to, not introduce a new material, kind of speak to what was pre-existing, but we did come up with this new pattern for the floor. And it's actually inspired by the Copenhagen airport, which is my husband's Danish, and I've traveled to Copenhagen all the time. And I've always admired this sort of linear, punctuated by vertical plank patterning. They do it in wood. We recreated it here in travertine, but that's sort of a personal note laid into this home. Another extremely hardworking space is the butler pantry. There's quite a bit of working here too. We've got your printer copier. We've got a little dog station over here. There's a fillable dog water bowl down here, along with, food storage. And then beyond is all of your pantry goods, your platters, your mobile appliances, things like that. So we're kind of repurposing the same palette of colors. Like, you'll see this is the same palette that was in the Negroni room. So you've got this kind of ochre caramel color. Then you've got this warm rusty burgundy color. And we're just kind of, it's really interesting to see how color changes when you take it, from the ceiling and put it on the wall, or when you have it in cabinetry, or just the light in this space is so different from the living room. But it's the same palette of colors that we're using again here. I think when you have a whole home and you have the opportunity to design a whole home at the same time, it's really important that it doesn't feel like, I call it the Disneyland effect, where every room has its own story. They need to be individuals, but they should maybe be like siblings, There should be a thread of recognition as you move from one room to the next. So they're identifiable, but still very connected. And everything is, pocket doors. So depending on the level of concealment you're looking for, if you are hosting an event, you can, kind of close it off there. You could also, if you wanted to keep your dog tucked away, you can close it off there as well. So it's really malleable to kind of like reveal or conceal as much as you want. This room, this moody little nugget of a powder room, was real fun to design. It definitely, like many of the other rooms, started with a piece of stone. So this piece of stone stood out to the homeowner. They fell in love with it. We wanted to do something new with it. We've used stone on tables, we've used stone on countertops, and here we wanted to showcase it more as a piece of, art by nature. So we created this arched framework for it, tucked a freestanding pedestal. This is like a ceramic pedestal piece, and made it, lit it, made it a little moment. The walls in this room are lime wash. Originally had been planned to be plaster, but ended up being this room was a little more hardworking. It's right off of the entry, so it's kind of the main powder room for guests. So we did go with a lime wash paint finish that has a plaster effect over actual plaster, which is a little more sensitive to wear and tear and water and things like that. Okay, so matcha latte, we've got the eat-in kitchen area here, and then through that space we've got this little mudroom. It's kind of the pool mudroom, so there's a lot of tile work. We want to be able to just throw a wet swimsuit anywhere and it, does no harm. So we came up with this. This is a custom tile pattern. We've got colored grout in there, which is really fun and also helps with the longevity of a hardworking space like this. So we've got this bench. It's full of storage. All of these cabinets can hold, they kind of flex and they can hold pool noodles, beach towels, all of that. And then beyond, if you're running in and out of the pool, there's this pool bathroom, which carries through that same tile detail. Let's head upstairs to the bedroom level and take a look at some of the sleeping and lounging spaces up there. So this was kind of like a little bonus space off the main, path of the house here. We're kind of in the upstairs, off the hallway. And it was just this little room that was left over. It was originally styled as an office space, but we set it up as more of a reading room. So you've got book storage and a cozy little landing spot there. It's a very comfortable sofa. The painting is the homeowner's. She sourced it. I remember when she got it and she felt a connection to it. There was this black dog in the foreground and she is a lover of black labs and she felt a connection. She also felt like there was a mystery to it that I talk about those pieces that challenge you. I think that she was attracted to the challenge of this piece, that it wasn't an easy piece and that kind of made it all the more special to her. I think this is one of the only pieces in the house that's antique. Like she's very much more of a contemporary art collector, and this is an anomaly in that it is actually a historical piece. You can see where it's like been reframed over the years. It was made smaller and then made larger again. So I think the layers to it are really fun. The moodiest spaces of the whole home by design. The primary bedroom, inspiration taken from a cup of Mexican hot chocolate. So a little sweet, a little sultry, a little spicy. We even had some fun. The lamps are by Mexican artists, the nightstand lamps, and they have these fantastic pull chains on them. They really are just a special treat to use. Trying to create like an envelope of space here. Everything is one color. Again, this house is a story of colors. We're tapping again back into those rusts and reds and romantic rosy tones, and we sort of end there. So what you're not seeing here are those caramels. They kind of come up in adjacent spaces. We've got this hot red lacquer nightstands. Again, with the lacquer, there's a little touch of it in every room. We've got this nearly wall-to-wall rug that just kind of gives you this great base layer and cozies up the space. Window treatments are this lovely mohair, which I know you can't feel, but I wish you could. They're so decadent to touch. And they are in sort of this like monochromatic tone to the walls. So on first blush, they sort of disappear and then they kind of come alive to you as you move closer to them. Yeah, this room we did not change spatially or structurally. The fireplace pre-existed and there was sort of like a little TV room on the other side. We did replace the stone, painted the whole room, added some architectural moldings throughout, but the real like bones of the room kind of remain the same. So you might sense that there's a real change in tone of this room. We've moved from energy in the main level to definitely moody, subdued. We're quieting ourselves down in this space. But we have not lost a thread to the main level. So this whole home, there's a common language of these warm tones, these rusts, these reds, these plums, these goldens, these ochres, and you'll see them in every space. So that is what really allowed us to have a unique identity in every room, but have the home feel one voice at the end of the day. Like you can really get a sense that like one family kind of came in and had a hand in how it looks today. I do love this screen piece. This is a freestanding screen with these golden piano hinges. It was made by a local friend and maker, Rovan, Andy of Rovan. He makes a lot of our custom furniture for us. and it's, totally collapsible, could go with them to future locations. And I just personally am in love with the folding screen. I think it's an underused piece of furniture in today's interior design. I think it works as a great backdrop to other furniture pieces. It lends shadow lines to a room. You get, this sense of depth and movement, and kind of breaks up the room's energy, and it makes it feel more spontaneous, I think. You've got this sort of like casual unfolding of the screen behind the bed. We also, to talk about lighting, love our lighting options in this house. So around the bed, you've got pendant lighting, you've got lamp lighting, you've got a little task reading lighting, then we've got our sort of ambient lamp lighting, as well as overhead lighting and spotlights. So in every room, there's so many layers of lighting to really match your mood, match your need, and always, always, always featuring the art and the architectural pieces of the home. This room is a great example of going big on a single color can actually feel less wild than a lot of different colors. I think sometimes people think color means a lot of different colors. Like if you're a color lover, you love all the colors, and that's great. But I also think it's counterintuitive. If you're dipping your toe into the world of color, picking one color and kind of enveloping the whole space in one color can actually feel a little simpler. You get a really dramatic effect, but it doesn't feel chaotic. It doesn't feel scattered. You also don't have to worry as much about things clashing. So if you're just starting to experiment with color and you're afraid that, I don't know if I am confident enough to match greens and blues and reds and yellows together, just pick one color and experiment with like lighter and darker shades of that. So like these pillows are a great example. We've got, plum tones, mid-tone plums. We've got like a dark black brown plum. We've got a rosy color. We've got an orangier version, but they're all, again, talking about siblings. They're all kind of members of the same family. And it looks expensive. It looks like you really know what you're doing. But I do think it's easier for the average person to pull off. One of the bigger challenges of this project, it is a fairly spacious home. There's a number of living spaces, even mudroom spaces. So one of the things that we really worked closely with the homeowner on was giving each space a definitive personality. Again, that concept really helps us do that successfully. But thinking about, for example, what is the room that I'm sitting in right now? What is this used for? And how is it unique from how other sitting rooms in the house are being used? Where are their televisions? Where is their music? Where are their fireplaces? How can we give each space a distinct identity and purpose so that the whole entirety of the house is used? It may not all be used in a single day, but throughout the course of a year, and definitely throughout the course of a family's time in this space, there's a purpose to this room, and there's a purpose to other rooms, bedrooms, sitting areas, gathering spaces. That was definitely something we spent a lot of time on and are still working through as the family is evolving and spending more time in this space. They're discovering new needs that they want to accommodate. And so thinking about how everything can get used throughout the course of the year. Of course, the timeline was also a challenge, but I think in the end it was a really beautiful challenge, and it pushed us into a really unique place that we might not have gotten without that specific design parameter. So a little vacation from the moodiness. This room has a very different energy. This is the guest space, and it's much sunnier, much brighter, more like a glass of lemonade. We've got the sunflowers on the drapery. We've got kind of this coastal blue shaker 4-post bed. The sheeting and the bedding is very light and airy. We just have a whole different beverage in this room. Honestly, if I'm being honest, this room, we repurposed a lot of things. We modified some of them. So like the bed was black and we painted it blue to kind of suit this palette of this room a little bit more. Some of the bedding was from the other home that we had designed for this homeowner. We layered in some new pieces, but I think it's a really fun example of everything doesn't have to start over new. And actually, a lot of the things that you've seen throughout the house were not brand new, but maybe had been reupholstered or adapted. Maybe it's the Midwesterner in us, but we really aren't a throwaway culture. We really like to reuse, repurpose, encourage people to buy pieces and find new ways to live with them. So this guest bedroom really was a amalgamation of pieces the homeowner loved, as well as a few new additions. So we upgraded the bedding. I think the drapery really added a new voice to the conversation. I think there's a country quality to this a little bit, and maybe it's the color palette. We've got, metal side tables. We've got some wood notes at the desk, a little industrial, a little rustic, but alongside some polished elements like custom drapery and this really chic, slip-covered rocking chair in the corner. So it's a little sweet, it's a little cozy, and definitely feels like a little bit of a vacation from the rest of the house in some ways. Concept for this room, it was definitely the most challenging concept, but also the most fun. So the homeowner's most favorite beverage of all beverages was a glass of room temperature tap water. And when she told me that, I chuckled because I thought, I can't think of anything more neutral than that. It was a very Gwyneth Paltrow kind of answer. And I just was so excited about the opportunity of how to create a dramatic statement bathroom that matched the energy of the rest of the house, but still have it channel this non-entity of a glass of tap water. So we started, once again, you'll notice a theme, we started with stone. And the homeowner actually had purchased this stone for a previous project and had it, and it worked so well with our concept that we started with that and we built on top of it. So the notes that you're seeing recurring throughout the house, we've got these oxidized brass, bronze hardware. There's layers of metal. There's some industrial notes alongside organic notes of stone. And then we've got more decorative notes of, there's this very petite kind of French ticking stripe wallpaper throughout. All the cabinetry in this space was new. We custom designed, kind of blending, again, wood with stone with these high gloss lacquer elements. Now that I'm thinking about it, I do think that there's a high gloss lacquer in every single room almost, as well as these metallic elements. We really were able to carry that through into every space. This tile was made by my good friend, Kristen Falkirk. She makes a lot of our tile. And so each piece was hand cut, hand glazed. And, the pattern is not as simple as it looks. There's sort of this 2-layer alternating pattern, but there's also threads of runs that go the other direction. I think it really takes the organic quality of a handmade tile and ups the ante, which was fun to do. Beyond the stone case doorways, we've got a water closet, it's a toilet room, and then a shower with a little bit more of Kristen's tile on the floor, and then the clay Zellige tile on the walls. I think a home is a member of the family. And that doesn't necessarily mean that everything is nice all the time. I do think that there's a lot of value, and maybe that's why I love old homes so much, is they come to the table with needs and wants. They come to the table with a story that's already pre-existed your cohabitation with it. And there's a lot of value in that. But sometimes it can be challenging. Sometimes we as occupants of these homes have to maybe modify or get to modify our behavior, and we learn something new about ourselves because we're challenged or pushed to try something new in our daily routine or embrace a new way of gathering in a new space that we maybe weren't used to before we started living with this space. So I think it's an amazing opportunity. I really strive for evolution in homes. I think every home is trying to tell 3 stories at the same time. I really think we've got the story that the home has, that it's bringing to the table. I think that the homeowner has a history that they're bringing to the table, their travels, their lives, their loves. And then there's this future story of the two together and what you're hoping to see in the future together, whether that's families or travel or gatherings, whatever it is you're seeing for yourself down the road. How do we bring these two stories together and make a third new story? And we have to respect all of those. We can't trample over every one. I don't think it's successful if you ignore the home's history and only think about yourself in this space. And I don't think it's successful the other way, to live in a museum and say only the home's presence matters and I will just learn to adapt to it. It really has to be a merging of both. And so for me, I think when you think about the home as another member of the family, sometimes that's challenging. Sometimes that's, there's a butting of heads a little bit, but there's also a ton of beauty and opportunity in being challenged like that. And learning new things about yourself. Thanks so much, Homeworthy, for coming with me on this tour. I really enjoyed showing you around, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.